there are some changes happening in the federal government, right? With the Trump administration.
You think?
Just a little bit of change, right, Brian? Just a little.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
The cheese, right?
Not too much craziness. But that's why one of my favorite books is Who Moved My Cheese? And if you woke up on January 20th and your cheese was moved or something changed on you, read this book. It's about 4 mice. It's simple. Even I can read this in a couple of hours, Brian. Even I can do that.
You didn't show the other cover, though, Dave. We have another one.
I do need that cover. Send me the cover.
All right.
All right. So one word, we're doing business with the government. We got a bunch of them in there, right? Let's see. I like confusing. Jessica, that's a winner, right? Uncertain.
David says uncertain, yeah.
Yeah, that's a winner. And
Mary, I'm mispronouncing that, but said, I will add chaotic.
Mary, hang on a second. I'm going to unmute Mary because, she's got 2 of them in here. Mary, raise your hand if you put that, yes, confusing is good. Raise your hand if you're the one. There's 2 Mary of yours in here. Put your hand up so I can unmute you. I'd love to chat with you about that. Difficult.
Unprecedented.
Unprecedented. That's a good word.
Disruption.
Raj. Boy, do I love that one.
Yes.
Love it, love it, love it. All right, now that we know a little bit about that, let's talk about you guys. Let's get to know each other. How long you been in business? You just starting out? You're brand spanking new? Maybe you've been 20 plus years, or maybe you're sandwiched somewhere there in between. I'm in the sandwich zone. I'm at 16 years now. Crazy. You believe that?
Sweet 16. There you go.
16.
David over here has been with 25 years.
Is that right? That's awesome. And whether you got business, because we talk about business here.
Well, it's really like 45 years, Dave, because when you multiply it by the number of jobs we each hold, right? I got 4 jobs, man, right? So it's more like
that's
right.
There's truth to that, man. I'm probably in the millennia now.
Yeah, exactly. We've been doing this for 100 years. Yeah.
That's pretty funny. All right, so the setup with change comes opportunity. That's why I wanted to grab, who was it? It was Mary, F-E-H-L. Mary F-E-H-L said, confusing is good. Yes, I agree with that. So how can we leverage that change? So here's the hot seat questions for everybody. They didn't even know what's happening. So all the panelists, it's the first time they're seeing it. So these are the questions. What are you seeing in the federal market? So we're going to do that. And then we're going to talk about what's working and throw in some of the things that you guys are doing to help it work. Cool? Is that good? All the panelists, you good with that? All right. For those of you who've never been here before, and there's a few, so we're not affiliated with anybody. They won't have us. No, we're not affiliated by GSA or any other.
Go away.
And it's information purposed only. Sometime I have to fix that stupid slide. All right. Doesn't guarantee a contract award. I know that's depressing for everybody that's here.
Really?
Trust me, it costs a lot more to get in here.
That's right. So any Govies here? If you ever a Govie, we'd like to recognize you. And there's nothing, no endorsement or anything or commitment to purchase from any vendor. That's what GSA gave us at GovBrief. We're going to be talking about GovBrief today a little bit. So also, if you have any questions, raise your hand, put it in the Q&A, throw it in the chat. We'll try to pay attention. We love the feedback. And the first little bit of feedback that I want to know is, can you get to the top link on this, and does it look something like this when you do it? If you can reach it, thumbs up if you can reach this and it comes to you. If not, we'll make sure we get it to you some other way. Are you be able to get that top link to get the session docs? Oh, at least one person.
Right.
One person's paying attention to me. Denise, just one.
I know. Well, that's a good thing.
All right. We woke some other people up apparently too. All right. And we're going to connect you with experts. We got Brian Hebel. We got Denise Lawrence. We got Rafael Marrero. We got Todd Crane. We got Nora Bashor here today. Peter Timmis is going to come in a little bit. He'll be here, and we will have shameless plugs. Right, Todd?
Never.
Completely 100% shameless about sponsors like samradar.com. If you're not on samradar.com, you should be.
Absolutely.
And if you're not working with these characters, you should be. Just saying. All right.
And if for no other reason than the entertainment value, right?
Yeah,
dude?
we highly entertaining. Highly entertaining.
Look at that 100 folks, Dave.
Wowzers. Man, we're getting there, aren't we?
Yeah.
All right. So today I will be presenting on sam.gov. We're doing the opportunity tutorial. Do this every second Tuesday of the month. Do that at 1 p.m. So speaking of shameless plugs, you can sign up for that. The reason why we talk about this is we can't do this alone. None of us have done this alone. A lot of us have relied on each other, right, Rafa?
Totally, 100%.
Dude, I'm digging the hat.
Hey, gotta rock it, man. Come on.
It matches.
Matches, of course. You got a company. Remember that? You got a company. You got a company.
It sounds like somebody talked to him about branding, or he knows something about branding, you know?
Something about
You gotta wear the
Brand.
linen with the fedora and the glasses. You know, come on. Come
Yeah,
on.
you got it.
You know?
It's that you're
Yeah.
bringing out the Cuban in
The
yourself.
two-tone shoes, brother. My
All right,
shoes.
so where are
Okay.
we and what are we seeing out there? Right now, just a real quick review. We are in Q3 of fiscal year 2025. We own our 140 days left in this fiscal year, and they're just a tad behind, right, Brian Hebel? Just spending all that money. They're just a
A
tad.
little bit.
Definitely behind. Definitely
And-
behind.
And I think we've seen a little bit of contract and grant shakeup, haven't we, Denise Lawrence?
Yeah.
And federal employees are a little bit nervous. Speaking of a previous federal employee, Brian Hebel is one of previous federal employee. A little bit of trepidation out there, huh, Brian?
Well, if they're still there, right? Or if they're
Right.
still there getting called back and don't know what they're supposed to do, it's a little bit crazy.
It is a little bit crazy. In your handouts, you'll see at least the update as of the first of this month. We have 815,000 contracts worth $76 billion since Inauguration Day. We're measuring everything since 120 from here on out. There's also reports that are available back to the beginning of this fiscal year. But if we're looking at what we're going to be doing now, we want to be paying attention to what's happened since 120. Does that make sense to everybody? We good with that?
Yep.
All right, cool. All right, so the importance of real-time monitoring, because 95% still not hitting sam.gov. I'm not sure that anybody ever knew that, but federal agencies are dealing with this unprecedented change, as we mentioned. Whoop, whoop, let's get this right. And this is one of the reasons, right, Brian? They have to show progress to keep their jobs. I was talking to somebody the other day. It was yesterday, I think, on the Monday roundtables, I think. Somebody said that they need to be able to cut on a grant of all things, Denise Lawrence.
Mhm.
It was originally 1.275, and they cut the grant to $1 million. So they're working across the board to show progress to keep their jobs.
Yep.
That's what's happening. That's some of the stuff that's happening. I want to hear from everybody else. In the chat, let me post this in again, just in case you missed it. The top link gets you the session docs. You have the winnable opportunity matrix. We have the spending report from last year that we're going to talk about that in just a minute. And the spending report since 120 as of the 1st of May. Not the February spending report. That would be the old slide, everybody. Just saying. You got to edit the D for purposed, and February has to come out next time. Maybe I'll just say
Yes.
spending report. How about that?
There you
And
go.
then you have essential things like the ISI federal capability statement and other capability statements, Rafael Marrero, and other propaganda. So
Yeah.
real quick, just to get everybody up to speed, that spending report looks like this. All the data is provided by two government systems. How many people are familiar with FPDS? Thumbs up if you are. And sam.gov. Everybody know what those two systems are? Contracts, or where contracting officers. What do they do with FPDS, Brian Hebel?
What do we do with it, or what's the government
What
do
do
with it?
FPDS as a contracting officer?
Well, anytime they do an award, an administrative mod, $100 million award, a $20,000 award, they have to put the data in FPDS.
That's right.
Everything goes in there.
So it's contract award data, where sam.gov is where we see opportunities theoretically. I'll throw the theoretically out there. And here's why. Here's what I want to say. Everything is relative to the number of offers received. So for everybody's edification, the not reported means what, Brian? Usually.
Usually, I think it means one.
One.
And for those on, I was a contracting officer for 32 years.
Yeah.
Just FYI.
Yep.
So anyhow, that's why Dave keeps asking me those questions. But yeah, usually they don't report it because it was one. That's what I would assume.
Yep. And we'll illustrate this even more, Brian. So take a look at this. 81% of the contracts not reported are won. 60% of the dollars. So all of this has to deal with number of offers received. That means there's no competition. Everybody get it?
Money.
Everybody got it?
Money.
Watch this. I love this because we used this word earlier, unprecedented, right? 90% of the contracts, 93% of the dollars had 5 or fewer offers received. Thumbs up if you think that 5 being one of 5 means you're on a short list. A lot of ways to be able to do that. A lot of ways. You could win an IDIQ or BPA, right? You could be shortlisted that way. Or maybe you just know Brian, and Brian loves competition, except what, Brian?
Just not too much of it.
It's not too much.
5 might even be too many, Dave.
5 might even be too many
Yeah,
to Brian.
we like 3. 3 is a good number.
So let me say this is also unprecedented. These numbers have changed dramatically since 2019. Obviously, we had COVID. That changed a lot of things for folks that remember what that is. I don't know. Todd, you remember what COVID is? I don't know.
No, never heard of it in my life.
So when you start looking at these numbers, this is what changed my brain completely in 2009 when I started to compare these two numbers. Because if 143,191 hit SAM.gov and 7.2 million, almost 7.3 million hit FPDS, where are all these coming from?
Where are they coming from?
Where are they?
Where are they?
So I'm going to end this poll. I just realized it was still running.
We got a lot of responses though.
Yeah, we did. I'm going to look at that in a minute. So my question is, did you know about the 98%? Yes, you knew about it and you want some, or maybe you knew something was missing, but you didn't know it was 98%, but you still want some. And know this is the first time you're hearing about it and you want some, or you don't believe what I'm saying, but you still want some. How about that? All right. So if you're wondering what's happening since 120, since we're talking about that, take a look at these numbers, right? Those are the numbers now. The difference is 41,000 hit and 814,000. And look at this number, by the way. If you're wondering whether any money's being spent since the Trumpster took office, there you go. It's happening. Like I said, 95% still not hitting SAM.gov. This is why we have to monitor all contract activity, not just what's hitting SAM.gov. And then we can engage. We're going to talk a lot about engagement and how we engage. Rafael Marrero, I'm going to feature a lot of your stuff that you did in your session last month. Right? Cool.
And Dave, it's also important to point out that that's not including DoD, or at least not past 90 days of DoD.
That's right.
Yeah.
You are right.
And DoD's $1 billion or $1 trillion budget.
$1 trillion.
Trillion.
Yeah. The $1 trillion budget. Yeah. That's a lot of money that's not being reflected there. So
Yeah.
that number's a lot higher.
That is a lot higher. And that's a good point. So we can't report on numbers we don't see, right, Todd?
Absolutely. And hey, you don't want, the Chinese have access to these numbers as well. We don't want to give them, our blueprint to our success. So
No, we'll just let them spy on us the old-fashioned way.
right, of course.
Ultimately, we need to
We're gonna
build
get in trouble.
relationships. Can you still build relationships in the government? Is that still working? Anybody got a thumbs up that that's still working?
You can still build relationships, yeah.
Oh, here's the golden question, Jessica Golden. Why aren't they posting all jobs to SAM.gov? I wonder, Jessica, because of what Brian said. You want competition, just what, Brian?
Not too much of it. And
Not
it takes longer in SAM.gov too.
Yeah, takes longer. They're looking for other avenues. And this is the avenue that we need to take. We need to build those relationships so we can influence the avenue.
Absolutely, Jessica. We're here because we want to get our fingerprints all over these requisitions.
Oh, I even have that slide in here, Todd.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm just so excited.
I love it. That's a little primer. We're doing all kind of good primers today, getting our dirty little fingerprints all over the scope of work and the acquisition strategy. Right, Rafa?
All day.
Right, Rafa?
Yep.
Yes, sir. You know it. All right, then we can minimize the competition. We can be part of be part of the short list. We want to be on the short list, right? Everybody here wants to be on the short list. And everybody here knows what a short list is. You've been on it before. If you've been in business for any amount of time, you have people that know, like, and trust you. Right? Right, Todd?
Absolutely.
That's the way business happens.
I know, like, and trust you, Dave. So Rafa, on the other hand, no, I'm kidding. I love you, Rafa.
Oh, shucks, Todd. That's awesome. All right, so we can win. What can we win? Seriously, we can win by being on the short list and ultimately, hopefully, get our place to a 1 of 1. There's a lot of ways to do that too. I've talked about that for years. But we got to get to the contracting officers, the people that took Brian's place that are still there, right, Brian?
Some of them.
I was going to say a few.
So what I'm going to say is this. Here's what we want to do. I'm going to point you to samradar.com because it's going to monitor 100% of this, and you can use 10% attendee on this. It'll take 10% off your first 3 months. So that's what we're going to be talking about a little bit today. We want to make sure you know. Shameless plugs that we do here, Todd Crane.
Ever.
So, all right. So here's the hot seat questions again. What are you seeing in the market and what is working? So let's start here. Brian Hebel, what are you seeing in the federal market? Because there's a lot of stuff going on in the federal market. And as you mentioned, Brian, you have 32 years of contracting officer experience with what agency? Can you say?
Medicare headquarters, DOD. Before that, have a CPARS book out too. Don't forget the CPARS book. Probably I'll put that one up. But anyhow, what's going on? A lot of terminations. How many terminations did we see? 19,926 since Inauguration Day. And that doesn't count. That only is if they put it in FPDS, right?
Yep.
If they put it in as a other administrative action, and then they still have yet to reduce the scope and reduce the dollars, we won't even know how much has been terminated and reduced till the end of the year, from that standpoint.
And you're actually we have one on demand on GovBrief, but you're going to be talking about this next week, right?
Yep. Next week, terminations for sure.
With Ed Wilgus. And Ed's a former contracting officer too?
It's just like me, 32 years as a contracting officer. We're going to really teach people how not to leave any money on the table and what the procedures are for contractors and for the government, so because government people have never done terminations before, right? From that standpoint, rarely do they. So they really don't know what they're doing. So if you take our course, you'll know what to do more than the government contracting officers in a lot of cases.
And so
for sure.
Everybody hear that?
There's a lot of money people are leaving on the table when it comes to terminations that they have. And
so
we're
if you
just
have
trying to help
current
people that way.
contracts, if you have current contracts and maybe there's some folks that are not getting paid, we saw that before, because that's one of the issues that we see, right? So you're seeing contract terminations, and you've been focused on this for quite a bit because of that reason, right, Brian? Because if they haven't done it a lot, they don't know what they're doing, right?
On the inside they don't know, and on the outside they don't. But contractors have a year to submit a settlement proposal. So even from that standpoint, a lot of these dollars aren't going to be cleaned up to the end of the fiscal year, I would presume.
Yeah.
From that standpoint.
And what else are you seeing out there?
Well, I still think, Dave, I like what you always say, that there's still a lot of opportunity out there, right? They still have to spend money, as you always say. So with the changes, what I see with the changes and the rifts and people, the contracting officers are really going to be up to their elbows doing everything they have to do, their work. They've lost people, their workloads increase. So whatever you can do to help them by telling them how they can buy from you quickly, that's going to be to your advantage if you have vehicles that they can use to get to you quickly.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. Todd,
like we always talk about, Dave, logical follow-ons, right? If you have existing contracts, your program managers probably don't know anything about logical follow-ons. You need to educate them about it, regardless whether it's a GSA or an IDIQ type contract. Yep.
Like that. Todd, what are you seeing out there from the standpoint of And obviously CMMC is a big deal. You help folks in that space. And you can talk a little bit about that, about the challenges of that, if you would.
Yeah, so CMMC, if you haven't heard, kind of roll back or rewind a little bit. There's been a requirement called 800-171 on all DoD contracts for a few years now. DoD finally got tired of people being creative with the truth when they filled out the forms and the self-attestations. So now they're requiring an audit. There was, one of the things that used to be called a POAM basically allows you to say, hey, basically a to-do list. We'll finish up our certification or whatever once we finish these couple things. Well, people were putting 2099 as their expected date of compliance, right? For a contract that only was like a couple years.
High speed.
Yeah. And so I was like, so they got tired of all the shenanigans people played. So that's what they're doing. Now we're seeing it going into the regular government space. So it's expanding beyond DoD. And then on top of that, with the new Doge and everything going on within the DoD, they're already starting to work on CMMC, the next version of CMMC.
Yep.
They're working on the next version of these things and making things much more efficient, much more automated. So we're seeing a lot of changes.
I couldn't agree more. Denise, what are you seeing? Denise does for-profit grants. In fact, she's going to be talking next week. I'm gonna pull that up so we can shamelessly plug you as well, Denise.
Well, definitely, I've heard from a lot of former nonprofit clients this past week with NEA canceled all of their contracts pretty much for anybody that had the word minority, marginalized, that were serving equity, got their axe letters, and that was pretty sad. On the for-profit contracting proposal side, I've heard a few folks are getting phone calls from private numbers from government folks that they've known saying, please get your GSA on the GSA schedule. Please, I need you. I need you because, they're reaching out to folks who have extensive experience. Some of whom have been subcontractors, as the primes aren't going to be getting some of these opportunities. So they're going to some of the subs to say, hey, step it up. I need you. And this is the only way I can play with you.
I love this. So tell her, Jessica Golden, asking another golden question. What is GSA?
Oh boy. That sounded like a setup, Todd.
I don't think there's three letters that invoke so much opinions, at least on the acquisition side of the government.
That's right. DMV is probably the only other one that gets the kind of anxiety.
Just go. Yeah. So someone put in the chat that there's a webinar coming up from GSA, which is going to be the only way that you're going to be able to get contracts in the very near future. And some are saying, I hear Medicare folks are saying they already have to work with people on the GSA schedule.
So GSA's General Services Administration. Their
right.
job has been historically, right, Brian? Their job has been historically how to connect vendors to the government. That's their job. They build the bridge called contract vehicles. They can be schedules that are like menu of products and services. And they can, and you get a schedule or you get on a contract vehicle, right? So a type of vehicle. And there's many of them. There's 15,000 different companies that have GSA schedules. And that number is obviously going to go up.
Better, huh?
It better go up. Otherwise, they're going to have a pool of 15,000 they could choose from for their regular stuff. And that's how that works. So
it's a great way to get on a short list, right? Or in theory, at least.
Yep. There's a lot of ways that GSA contracts can be used. We might even have Brian talk about that in a minute.
Hey, Dave, real quick though, on the grant side, the Department of Education is actually wanting for-profit companies to apply for grants. It's never happened. I've been waiting on that forever. Yeah.
When that happen? Is that going to happen?
It's open. There's an open opportunity this month.
Wow.
For for-profit companies. Oh.
Interestingly enough, you're doing a presentation on that next week. You can get that on govbrief.us.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, even if you get on a GSA contract, that doesn't guarantee sales, right?
No.
In order to do that, you need to market yourself.
Imagine that, Todd Crane. Thank you very much for that. Rolling right into what should you market out there? You need capability statements, do you not, Rafael Marrero? Don't talk about that. We'll talk about what you do in a minute, but tell us about, and by the way, he does capability statements and helps with briefing decks and videos and website development, stuff like that, right? And business cards, anything to make you look like you belong. That's what
Published books
Marrero does. Oh, so what are you seeing out there? What are you hearing from the contractors and subcontractors, Rafa?
Well, first and foremost, there's a major process right now for they're rewriting the federal acquisition regulations, right? There's this big push right now. That's going to be substantial. So that's something that we need to be monitoring. They're gunning to do like a simplified version of the federal acquisition regulations, to put them in plain English, so to speak. And I guess it's going to be, somehow it's going to be a streamlined reading process and less complicated to read. But they will insist that all former contracting officers know what NAICS codes are.
That, for folks who don't know what that was, that was a direct shot at Brian Hebel, because he about melted down the Monday roundtables. And if you're a Sam Radar member, you know what they are. But the Monday roundtables, we're casually talking. So I said, "Hey, Brian, how do you choose the NAICS code?" And he said,
"We
just
never
pick
use
one."
NAICS codes." Yeah,
he just picks one.
Just pick one.
he just picks one. Yeah.
So that's a good point, Ralph. That's a nice sideways shot. That was really good.
Yeah.
In fact, just to come on what Rafael just said, I went into the electronic version of the FAR to see how many sites there were that are required by law to be in the new FAR, and there were 980 sites in the old FAR that are going to have to be in the new FAR.
Wow. There you go.
Wowzers.
There you
Nothing
go.
about NAICS codes, though.
Yeah.
Nothing about NAICS.
Oh no! That's you're looking under the wrong page.
Yeah, you're gonna have to change all your sticky notes, Brian.
That's it.
All right, Nara, what are you hearing out there? Nara Bashor helps folks with writing RFPs using AI with Voltron, and she's also got a whole way of doing things. It's just right. So what are you seeing out there, Nara?
Well, what's interesting is I've listened to everybody speak. We're all kind of representing different pieces of the puzzle that folks need.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it from the highest level viewpoint you can, competition is increasing, but it's also changing, and there's more flexibility. So while things are changing, new things are coming down the pike. So instead of chasing the same old that you've been chasing, see what else is out there that you can go after. You may need to update your capability statements. You're going to have to operationalize for the new business you want to go after. You may need new teaming partners. And it's all going to culminate in proposal, because that's the kind of final articulation of your strategy. And we can talk about how to choose AI to help you do that. But competition is increasing, and it's not the same old anymore. Commercial contractors are coming in, eating our lunch. Things are speeding up. So just want to kind of put a bug in people's ear. If you didn't go after certain agencies before, look at what they're spending, see what they're going to spend on, and maybe, kind of like, let's broaden our horizons.
And AI isn't a future technology, is it? Like there's nobody there's no guy in charge of I can't even talk now. Doge that likes AI, right?
Yeah.
If you use the right system, what we do at Voltron is think about it in terms of how do we elevate human performance, because there's so much we have to do on the GovCon side of the house in really, really tight time frames. So while we're going to see the feds adopt AI for what they're doing in a multitude of different ways, we want to help government contractors respond better, faster, and with higher quality.
I think you should just let the AI just write the whole RFP.
No.
What you trying to do? Put us out of business?
That's right.
That is All right. So I couldn't agree with everybody more about what's happening. Somebody's no, we're not doing that. We're not recommending that. Do not do that. In fact, if you do that, we promise you will lose.
Hello.
So
I like all those lawyers that got in trouble because they let AI write the briefs.
yeah. Lawyers.
And the AI basically came up with fake court cases.
So no QA, QC, right?
So
just straight off of ChatGPT.
Oh, nice. Copy and paste, nice.
So Megan's saying, I don't see how AI will be evaluating human writing specifically in response to RFPs. They're already doing it.
Oh,
They're already doing it.
Megan, there's a whole thing there.
That's a
Yeah.
Talk.
yeah.
And if only there was a GovBrief that she can go check out.
Imagine that. You can find that on demand.
Yeah.
And Nora did one the other day that kind of was an extension of what we've been talking about for a long time. So there's two different ones for evaluating AI. She's got one there, and she also has one for really cracking and diving into. It was heavy duty, right, Nora?
Heavy duty.
Yeah.
It's got some workshop components in it. Dave made me give it a grown-up title. I wanted to call it Crush the RFP, but he gave it a grown-up title.
There you go. I love it. So let's see. Can distributors get on GSA? You better believe it, Enrique.
And talk to your distributors because some of them actually have schedules that you can use, which is really interesting.
And Philip is saying, which part of GSA, for example, MAS or Oasis Plus? The answer is yes.
Yes,
So yes.
All the above and everything else.
Hey, Brian, what you got there? You want to talk for a second? You raise your hand. What you got? Oh,
Not me.
it went back down.
Yeah, not me. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, go ahead, Brian. Brian, you want to talk?
Brian Reichert.
Brian Reichert, go ahead and unmute.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I work with distributors all the time. They're phenomenal and they are completely hungry right now. I'm in the dental medical space and they need all the help they can get. I mean, they're still trying to figure it out, honestly, and they've been in it for years.
Yeah.
Well, I'm seeing a massive opportunity in that area.
Invite him to this webinar, second Tuesday of next
No. I want to drive the bus.
Hey, we'll help you drive the bus. We'll help you drive the bus, Brian. Yeah, we'll continue the conversation after this.
Thank you.
To your point, people need help in driving the bus, right?
Yeah, they're clueless.
They are clueless, and they're not clueless because they're stupid, right? Brian?
Right. Correct.
Right. I mean, we got a whole bunch of smart people here that we don't want to insult. First of all. And then the second part is, hey, when I got into this, I didn't know anything. If you saw my resume, I talked about this the other day. If you saw my resume, square zero, I was totally clueless and absolutely perfectly fine in my bliss, by the way. I didn't want anything to do with this world, but I had a client that made me do it. You know how they made me do it, Brian? You know how they made me do this stuff?
Which Brian?
Brian Reichert. You know how they made me do it?
How they make you do it?
They said, as a consultant, I said, I don't want to do it. They said, what's it going to take? I said, $12,000 a month. And they said, do it. And I said, you're crazy.
I got to raise my prices.
That's right. That's right. Well, I don't know, because I thought they were wing nuts, actually.
Hey, Dave, but just as a little bit of a plug for you, with all the change out there now, a lot of people don't even know who their contracting officers are anymore, which could be some of the problems with these people. But the good thing with you have all the contracting people in your database.
I do.
And you keep track of it every day.
I do.
So for people that want to use UCM Radar, you have who the most recent one was out there. So
what a perfect setup
not
for the next
that you
question.
don't like being plugged or anything, but it's the truth.
What a perfect setup. Now I have a question. This was up there before, but which one of these did you see first? Pop in the chat. What did you see first? The tree, the gorilla, the lion, or the fish? The tree, right? So this is what's important is when we're focusing on things, we can see them, right, Brian? Now my question is,
Yes,
did you see these? Did you see 17,588 pre-solicitations as sources sought? You really don't want to miss these. You really do not want to miss your source of salt and pre-solicitations. We already talked about this. This is as of today. There was 1,002,207 contracts. Many of these are in your space. You really don't want to miss these either. Because if you're not being able to see these, if you don't know what's happening, and if you're not monitoring in the space, you can't move through this process. You
Okay, so
can't move.
You're saying beyond SAMs and the other stuff, the pre-solicitations are showing up where?
The pre-solicitations are showing up on sam.gov and or GSA eBuy, right?
Yeah.
Right? But the rest of everything else that's happening is happening behind the scenes. And if you're not seeing the contract awards along with that, you're missing the rest of the marketplace. And the key here is to be able to act on it, to be able to engage the decision makers, which is exactly what Brian was talking about. And what I'd say is this: look, try it out, 7 days, and I'm telling you this: you will see contracts that don't hit sam.gov, that didn't hit sam.gov. Some of those are in there. We saw something for BPAs and IDIQs for task orders and things like that. That doesn't have to hit sam.gov, but a lot more than that doesn't hit. So number one, you're going to see contracts that don't hit sam.gov. You're going to see buyers that you don't know that are swimming in your pool. And you're going to see competitors that are winning that you don't know that are swimming in your pool. You will see those three things in 7 days or don't stay. Because if you see those, then you can act on those. And I guess, so what I want to do is I want to ask a question. What would you like to monitor? You want to monitor those things? We'll talk about it. What you got there, Brian? Did you have a question? Or somebody that said something? I'm going to mute you, Brian, just in case. All right. And for those of you who want to check things out on sam.gov, I'll show you how things work on sam.gov. There's a little piece of it in the end. If you want to see Sam Radar, we'll talk about that. But ultimately, you have got to be seeing everything in the marketplace if you want to be able to win. All right, and prep for the next question.
Real quick, Dave. Real quick, what happens if people are a little bit on the edge and don't know if it's, they should actually spend their money on Sam Radar? Is there some sort of, something we get back?
You mean this here? Hold on. Let me go to Sam Radar and I'll show you what Todd's talking about. Thank you very much for that setup, Todd. All right. There's a 10x guarantee. You do this.
Free money.
You do this. And we're going to promise you're going to make 10 times what you invest in Sam Radar. Now, I'll say this. If you're doing this right, you're not just going to make 10 times, right, Brian? Right, Todd?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, just the roundtables and themselves. We did what, $440 million last year, just in the roundtables.
Just in the roundtables, folks. Just in the roundtables.
This is huge. If you take this seriously, you're going to be tripping over money.
What? Hang on one sec. I do want to get you there. So that's what you're talking about, the roundtables.
Absolutely.
And they happen what happens every week, 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., right, Todd?
Absolutely. People bring their questions, anything from, we're talking about cancellations for convenience. We're talking about different Doge issues. We're talking about September issues. People bring every Monday, twice a day on Mondays, people bring their problems and we work together as a community to solve those problems.
That's right.
And build relationships.
And build relationships. I love that, Denise. Mm-hmm. Because now here's what we're talking about. And this weaves into what you said, Todd. If we just reach out and we're trying to do this through RFP, right? We wait for sam.gov. And we have 100 competitors on there, the chances are we're going to throw stuff up against the wall. It's not going to work, and we're going to get depressed.
Wait, are you saying that we shouldn't be waiting for buyers to come to us?
No. No. Should we be waiting? Anybody want to throw in on that? Should we be waiting for anything?
I want to wait for the phones to ring.
Nope. I agree. Hold on a sec. Let's see what we got here. Priyanka? Is that right, Priyanka? You got your hand raised. You want to chat about something while we're here? And Teresa just raised her hand too. Go ahead, Teresa. Up. Anybody?
Unmute yourself.
You can unmute yourself. All right. Maybe you're just saying hi. That's okay. All right. So I appreciate that setup. Shameless plug setup, by the way. What you got there, Brian? You got something else to throw in?
Yeah, so I work with a lot of manufacturers in my space. Is Sam's radar something I want them involved in, or is this something I want to drive the bus on? Do I want to be the one grabbing, diving into that, or is this something where I want my manufacturer, involved in the process as well?
It depends, because it really depends on how they go about their sales and whether they have somebody in sales. Everything we're seeing, by the way, this is something else we're seeing, Brian. This is turning into a purebred sales effort now, as opposed to just responses and doing things for RFPs. You got to turn it. It's turning into a purebred sales. And I know you, my man. I don't know you other than you just popping up. All I know is you're a sales guy, right?
Yep.
That's what you are, purebred. So leveraging that, you're either going to be the person doing it like I was, like you are, and being the guy, or you're going to be helping them be the guys to do it, depending on their structure and their ability to follow up on sales, period. So you can make that determination. It may not be an either or, but it might be a both in some form.
Yeah, I mean, my company is focused on marketing as well. So being able to, play both sides of the fence is key. That would be really good.
Stand by, my good man, Brian Reichert. You're about to get another dose of
I love it. I love it.
Because what? I want you to answer this question. If we are not relevant, we are by default what, Brian?
Oh, we're obsolete.
We're obsolete.
You got to always bring value.
Yep.
And there's anybody else want to throw in on that in the chat? If we are not relevant, we are by default what? Obsolete. Brian's got one.
There it is.
Irrelevant.
Tamika, Tristan.
Yeah.
Reese. Broke.
That too, Carol.
We broke. We're broke. We're smart, but we're broke. All right. So by definition, we're irrelevant. And so that's why becoming relevant and being relevant and staying relevant, because if we're not staying relevant, by default, we're what?
Irrelevant.
Irrelevant again.
Irrelevant.
So we're going to get into hot seat question number 2, which is what is working? I'm going to mute you out, Brian. I love what you're talking about, though. Love it. So Rafael Marrero, like I said, Rafael Marrero is a marketing. He sets up things for marketing. You actually do some marketing services too, not the stuff that we do, but stuff that you do, Rafa. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that you've done recently that works, we know that it works, is that you look like you belong. You've done this for talking about being aligned with DOGE and aligned with Trump initiatives. Why is that so important, Rafa?
Well, it's important because of the key metrics and the new terminology that the administration is looking for. You need to reflect this in your literature and all of your touch points, right? So if you're looking at your website, even the capability statements and the business cards, even as we design them, right? We're always trying to push the right messaging across all influence points. And what we do is we go through your contents and we make sure that you're projecting the right image, that you have the right codes, that you're using the right terms and parlance, and we make you look the part, which in procurement terms means being procurement ready and ready.
Uh-oh. Did we lose Rafa?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Man, that's a terrible freeze too. Well, I'm going to continue where Rafa was talking about it. He'll probably pop up somehow. I don't know what struck Miami just now, but that's where he is. So one of the most important things, and Denise, we talk about this too when you're talking about creating your grants. Last year, we used to be talking about what?
DEI.
DEI. We framed everything in DEI.
Yeah,
because
right.
why? Why?
And because
That's what the government wanted.
That's right. There he is. He's back.
I said Doge and I got cut.
You got some Democrats running the system down there.
It's that AI coming for you.
Don't shoot the messenger, please. Right.
Skynet.
Yeah.
I couldn't
so I was just
resist.
saying
we
that
stay apolitical most of the time, but I couldn't resist that one. All right, go ahead, Rafa. Continue that conversation.
Sure. So basically, we go through your information and all of your literature and all of the way we analyze the messaging that you're projecting, the terminology that you're using, and we make sure that you become procurement ready, which is what we do, right? So we help you not just on the aesthetic side, but also on the content side, right? What is it that you need to be saying, reflecting on your literature, your capability statements, your DSBS profile, all of it, right? People don't know what they don't know. They don't know what they don't know, right? And many times, many people ignore that these things are so important because they're first impressions.
Yeah. And they don't know what they don't know. When I started, I didn't know.
Yep.
I didn't know what a capability statement was.
Yep.
And we didn't use those in the commercial world.
Yep.
We used advertising slicks and we used different types of materials. I mean, when it comes down to it, that's really like your company resume, which is really important. Rafa does a great job. If you'd like a review of that, you can do this. In fact, I'm going to ask this question: is if you think your marketing materials are Trump ready? Yes, no, or not sure. And if you have a professional marketing firm, we'd like to know that, because if you'd like to talk to Rafa, what does it cost to sit down for you for 15 minutes, Rafa?
It's free.
It's free. My favorite 4-letter word.
That's it.
Not Crane.
Yeah, and take it from someone who's actually been there and done that. I mean, we've got the irons to prove it.
And here's what we think when we go in and we say, "Hey, we got all this stuff. This is what the feds think we look like." You ready? Everybody ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Here's the other problem. Here's the other problem, Rafa.
You forgot the triple roll.
We think we look like this. That's why I recommend if you have a chance to sit down with Rafa, let him do a little quick review. If you want to check out his on demand, that was a really great session. The last one you did, you're setting up to do another one in about a month, right, Rafa?
Yes, sir. We'll be here.
It's foundational.
And if we're not relevant, we are by default irrelevant.
You are doged. You're
going to get doged. That's exactly right. The other piece of being relevant is helping them solve a problem, right? Right, Brian Hebel? Was always your thing.
Yep. There's a bunch of reasons why you can meet with the government, but that's the main one: help them solve a problem. You can help them save money, teach them about industry trends or new requirements, but help them solve a problem is what they really want.
I couldn't agree more. So I'm going to talk about this for just a minute. GovBrief, everybody here has been on GovBrief. I was just checking to make sure. Looking at everybody to make sure here. Let me see something. Oh, we got Peter Timbus too. Hold on a second.
I'm here.
Hey, let me make you a co-host that you can share your video with us. Peter Timbus also been on. So I'm going to talk about how you can be relevant now, and this goes to a key piece, right, Rafa? If we can educate, we can influence. Everybody agree with that? Thumbs up if you agree that if you can educate, you can influence, because you become the subject matter expert, right? Right, Nora?
Yes.
And when you're educating people, not pitching people, what happens with that, Nora? You had one of the best freaking. Go ahead.
It creates this gravitational pull kind of back to you, because all you're doing is coming from this educational perspective of how can we team together to solve a problem. And that's what's really valuable for folks who work in government, are very mission oriented. So coming from that perspective, if they want to know more about your product, they'll ask. But, if I think about it from a foundational perspective, work with Rafa, you've got to get your content in order. Work with Dave, because you got to operationalize that content. And then work with Denise, because then you've got to be able to push forth all those strategies and approaches into a proposal. Work with Voltron to help you do it faster. Work with Brian, work with Todd. All of these are different puzzle pieces in the way you're going to kind of construct your business approach, but overlay that all with an SME approach of providing education. There's no pressure, and people will like automatically kind of gravitate toward that. It creates a flywheel back to you.
And you really don't even want to pitch. You want to educate, right?
Yeah.
Don't
you find
pitch.
more about people too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you start gaining influence. So this is what we do with GovBrief, reaching govies. We also do it with industry, reaching folks like you. And there's a lot of experience with that. But I'm going to talk about you reaching federal stakeholders. Sometimes that's the prime too, right? You need to reach the prime. But let's just talk about govies. Let's talk about people like Brian and people like Todd that used to be govies. And we want to reach them. I'm going to talk about a specific case study that we did. We call these interagency briefings. And the objective is to leverage Doge. Huge problem that we had. And I'm going to ask this question. Do you think you have a solution for Doge? And whether or not you want to reach decision makers, right? So I'm going to talk about this on the 20th. So if you want to know more about this, it's free. You can sign up. You can learn about interagency briefings. It is a simple process. Well, let me say this, not a simple process. It's a complicated process to meet a simple need. And that is educating federal decision makers on what you do. So I'm going to go through something, and this is something interesting because we heard back on January 20th, 22nd, right, Brian Hebel? Brian, they shut down all of the communications with us. And guess what we get paid for, Brian? We get paid to help people communicate with us. That's what we get paid for. So the freeze is still in place, and I don't know if anybody noticed, but there's a lot of noise out there.
Yep.
There's a lot of noise. I'm not going to call it fake news. I'm not going to call it real news. I'm just going to call it noise. There's a lot of noise. We don't know what to believe. And I had two clients, one brand new. They didn't know any better. And then I had clients that had been with me for years, and they were crazy enough to say, let's find out what the noise is and if it's real. So this is legit. So iAdvantage eStudy software. We're actually doing this again tomorrow with iAdvantage because we do this on a regular basis and talking about success within the EPA with their IR4. If you don't know what IR4 is, you're not interested in this. If you're not in data collection and management, you're not interested in this. So we marketed it out. This is the case study. This is the longest title I've ever had on GovBrief, meeting Doge requirements for data collection, compilation, communication, reporting for projects and studies. If you're not into that, you're not coming. Everybody agree with that?
Yep.
Right? Nora's not coming. She's into AI. She loves data. She ain't coming to this because she's not responsible for data collection, compilation, communication, right? So what we did is we leveraged this.
Nice.
We leveraged efficiency. Big keyword that everybody should have in their proposals from here on out, right, Nora? Mm-hmm. And Rafa should be in all your capabilities, right? Mm-hmm. Right. So we leverage this. Check this.
Efficiency is twice in that title right there.
That's exactly right.
You should make it your job title, Director of Government
Efficiency. Right. So here's the statistics. These are govies, 100% govies, 318 registrants from 39 different agencies with 185 that attended.
And this is when they weren't allowed to respond to us.
That's right.
Bravo.
This is when they weren't allowed to respond. And oh, by the way, with the comments and emails coming back, very interesting, very much needed. That's the kind of stuff that we were seeing. Check this out. 49 poll responses, just like the polls you're filling out right now, with responses with insider information. We learn things from 49 different people that other people don't know. And check this out. 20 immediate follow-up meeting requests. Isn't that what we all want? That's right. You go to industry days. You're not going to industry days to close people. You're going to industry days to meet people so that you can do what?
Insider information.
And get those follow-up meetings, right, Nora? Inside information, follow-up meetings.
Mhm.
And this is working right now, right this minute. We're doing it again tomorrow, and they show up because they have need. They're looking for solutions, answers to their problems. They don't have a current resource. If they did have a current resource, they're going to their current resource. They're not coming to you, but they might want to learn something new. And now, that's my picture, Todd Crane. Now Jamie Blackburn, who is running this for iAdvantage, has his fingerprints on the RFP.
Mm-hmm.
He's getting his fingerprints on the RFP. And you can see both of these on GovBrief. They're both free. Sign up, grab them. 2 of them. We had one for data and one for instant drug testing for oral fluid. No connection between those 2 things except GovBrief, and both of them drove, well, over 100 registrants. That's the difference. So if you're interested in that, educate and influence your folks. And that's why I told you, Brian Reichert, this is different than anybody else is doing. This is
Hey, Dave, being
yes,
an
sir.
ex-Govy, I think this is awesome. I mean, that is just out of the box. I mean, it's pretty amazing. But you have the contacts and you can do the marketing.
That's right.
Nobody else can do. You have all the Govies in there. So
Yeah, we have 1.4 million government contacts. How many are left? I don't know, Brian.
Not 1.4.
It's not 1.4 anymore from mine. So, and we just actually got another 4,000. So we don't have them all, obviously. But hey, what we do is we reach out and then they refer us to other people that we don't know. That's a cool thing. So if you want to learn about how you can educate and influence, make sure you come to this. And you can get to that on GovBrief, www.govbrief.us, and sign up for the interagency briefing overview. Cool? All right, so we're gonna get you guys out of here. We missed Sally White today. She's on location with Peter Timbus's group. I'll talk about Peter Timbus in a minute because he came in a little bit late. But she's down in Orlando at the VET conference. Appreciate her. She does LinkedIn stuff. We have Todd Crane, who helps with cybersecurity and helping people get ready for CMMC. Right there, Todd.
Absolutely. And other GRC things as well.
And that's
Which is
right.
compliance.
GRC being what?
A governance, risk, and compliance.
There you go. Love those acronyms.
Don't mess with that stuff.
And Denise Lawrence, who helps folks with for-profit grants and RFP and RFI writing. There are grants, for-profit grants. And if I'd have known about for-profit grants, Denise,
I know, Dave. I know.
I'd have saved $500,000 on that one that's up there that says samradar.com.
Yep, kind of a fit.
Yep. So please check her out on GovBrief. She'll be there May 22nd at 1 p.m. We have Peter Timbus who popped up, said hi, and I totally ignored him throughout this whole presentation, but I'm not going to ignore him now because he has an important part in helping you get funded, right? Right, Peter?
Well, if you're looking for financing efficiency, we are your firm.
I could not agree more. And in fact, you can pick that on the last poll if you need additional professional help. Some of us need more professional help than others, Todd.
Yeah, we need to put like psychological help there for some of us,
Well, that's why we have the Monday roundtables.
Monday
It's the group
roundtable.
therapy.
All right, that's a psycho, group therapy.
Yeah.
We do that. And if you want to check
get
reaching federal stakeholders, you can check that out on GovBrief. I'll be there today on 1 p.m. talking about SAM.gov opportunities. Love to have you be the SME, the subject matter expert in your field, in front of buyers and primes. We can help you get there. We're always calling for experts. We have slots that are available out through the end of this fiscal year. I want to thank Nora for being here because she's a rock star always. Did she leave us?
Yeah, she's
No,
still
I'm
here.
here. I'm
Still
here.
there. Oh, I can't see.
here.
I got too many people on the one screen. But I appreciate you, Nora. She's a rock star. Ralph, as always, I love you, my friend. And you're the only one that could possibly sport a fedora on a briefing session.
That's it. That's it.
And Brian, appreciate you, my good man. We're partners on the CPARS radar world, right?
yeah,
Brian?
well, just marketing it now, Dave, and happy to be teaming with you. It's been a
lot of
1.5 year project to help contractors get the CPAR ratings they deserve, and we are the experts.
Yeah, they are, and we got Ken Suskind and his group at GovCon RX in that, and you got a couple books out there. He's a writer. I just talk about writing. He actually writes things. And we appreciate Sally and Todd. Grab that CMC thing. I got repeat slides here, so
Yeah.
sorry about that.
Real quick, Catherine has a question in the Q&A. How
Go
do you
ahead.
determine what is seen as valuable content / education to draw interest?
Oh,
Ah,
That's a very
join
good
me,
question. Here's
please.
my answer.
Please join me for the GovBrief session. We'll talk about that
Exactly.
because the valuable content depends on who?
The buyer.
Client.
The buyer,
Buyer.
and whoever your target is, your valuable content depends on them.
And their
And
problem.
if you're not hitting that right, you're going to miss.
Deep.
And here's the problem, right, Todd? You have different reasons for making decisions, right? Buyers buy things. They're responsible for creating contracts, right, Brian Hebel? Create contracts. Your job is to get the contract done, not to know bits and bytes about an AI system and figure out all the nuts and bolts and everything else that everybody knows from Propellerhead land. Because that'll put Brian into a coma, just like Brian will put you into a coma talking about the FAR. No, I'm only kidding. He doesn't put anybody in a coma talking about the FAR. All right, we'll get you guys out of here. Great stuff. Thanks for joining us. Brian, you're awesome. Nora, you're awesome. Todd, Peter, you talk too much. We'll get Peter a session all by himself. We're going to talk
All
about,
right. That's a
about
deal.
finance.
Yeah, yeah. If you get Peter going, he will talk. But yeah,
He will. Let me get you.
he needs to be more lively here.
Yeah.
There's Peter's slide. If you need funding, because you finance the opportunity different than banks, and banks don't understand the federal world, do they, Peter?
They certainly do not.
They don't. But I appreciate you, man. Thanks for popping in, and we're gonna pull you in next time because there's problems in funding right now, isn't there?
Absolutely.
So appreciate you guys. Appreciate everybody. Thanks for joining us. See you on the Monday roundtables after you sign up for Sam Radar. And I think if we miss anything, we'll do it next month.
Awesome.
Bye, y'all.
All right.
Bye.